minutes later? Or?
Later. Yeah.
Okay. All righty, we'll go ahead and call to order our San Bernardino International Airport Authority regular meeting. There's a few announcements to be made, but we'll go ahead and make those after we reconvene after closed session. So following the agenda here, are there any public comment on closed session? Seeing none, since our audience is usually not very active, which we appreciate, we'll go ahead and recess to closed session, and then we'll come back and we'll do the roll call at the time. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and recess, come back to the open session. Is there any reportable action?
There was no reportable action taken in closed session.
Thank you. At this time, let's go ahead and call the roll. Madam Clerk.
Certainly. Please state your name for the record. From the City of Colton.
Frank Navarro.
Thank you very much. From the City of Loma Linda.
Ovi Popescu.
Thank you very much. From the City of Highland.
Penny Lilburn.
Thank you very much. And from the City of San Bernardino.
Henry Nickel.
Theodore Sanchez.
Thank you very much.
And with that, we'll go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to go ahead and ask Mayor Navarro to lead us in that, please.
Thank you. Join me in saluting the greatest flag in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go on to informational items, as you can tell, we have new members that have joined us, and some of us know them, some of us don't. So in the interest of trying to introduce themselves, I'm going to let the new members maybe introduce themselves to the rest of all of us, and maybe just tell us a little bit about where you're from and why you're here. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Mr.
Theodore Sanchez, San Bernardino. So I'm the councilman for the first ward, which covers the middle section of the city, and covers around the airport here. So I was born and raised here in San Bernardino. My aunt was in the Air Force, and I remember going to the base exchange here as a kid. Off to a little west of here, where they have truck trailers parked. Those used to be baseball fields, and I was a little kid who played baseball there. So I'm pretty intimately familiar with the area. I've just in the last 2 hours gotten intimately familiar with some of the business and some of the structure that the airport's run through, and I'm excited to have the city really work with the rest of the airport and see some real good progress come.
Cool. Thank you. Welcome. Mr. Navarro.
Thank you very much. Frank Navarro. Lived in Colton since 1965. Just recently got elected mayor for the city of Colton. Served in the city council for 6 years. Planning commission for 4 years, and other commissions within the city for a long time. I'm excited about being a part of this because I've heard a lot of conversations about what's going on at the airport, and I'm excited about being a part of the future of the airport. And I hope to bring my knowledge and my experience that I have to the table to become an active part of that. Cool. Look forward to working together with everybody.
Thank you. And Mr. Nickel.
Henry Nickel, council member for the city of San Bernardino of 5th Ward. That includes the northwest part of the city, around Cal State up to DeVore. I've been a council member since 2014, but now I'm not only a board member of this body, but I'm also a client. I'm a pilot, and I come here and fuel up, and I've been doing so for years, and appreciate the facilities here, and I've had the pleasure of attending the air shows here, and I just think this is a great asset for our community, and I look forward to serving our community and serving this board. Thank you.
Thank you. And next time we meet, which will be in a month, we're probably introducing 2 new members. Mayor Valdivia, I believe, sits on this board, and by then we'll have a representative from the county. So we'll get to hear from them a little bit about their involvement. Thank you very much. Well, welcome. It's exciting to have you all join us. We hope to continue to work well together. We worked well in the past with everyone else, and I think that's going to happen. Some of you, we've gotten to know you over the years. I mean, Mr. Navarro's worked very closely with our city in the past, and I've known Harry Nickel for a number of years. You're new, but I'm sure it sounds so far, looks like you're a pretty decent guy, so I'm really excited to work with you. We'll go ahead and move on to our, there was an item of any conflict of interest. I'm assuming nobody has any, otherwise they would have brought it to our attention. Other than that, we'll go ahead and move on to informational items. Mr. Burrows.
So for the sake of time, I'm going to dive into the annual operations update. With the airport environment, we do have to report operational statistics to the FAA every year, not only for their purposes, but we also track them for our own purposes. So Mr. Gibbs has a snapshot of how last year panned out for us, and I think you'll like some of this. So Mark, if you would.
Thank you, Mike. So like Mike mentioned, there are essentially two units that we track operational information for. One is the airport as a whole, and those are the statistics that get reported to both the FAA and to the industry. The other ones we track are for Luxair itself, so we always pay attention for business purposes as to what's taking place at Luxair SPD. So this first graph, this is the number of aircraft that land or take off at the airport. So this is the overall broad umbrella of the number of aircraft utilizing the airport. And it tells an interesting story. Essentially in 2014 is when we took a dedicated hard look at ourselves and rolled out a new marketing plan. And since that time, we've found quite a bit of success in the aviation community. A lot of that lends itself to our abilities to market to the various business lines, the aviation business lines, that the FBO touches. So since that time, aircraft activity at the airport has grown an average of 19% each year since 2014, which is pretty remarkable if you consider the amount of growth that normally takes place at airports, which is generally in the 2 to 3% range. So we're getting the message out there to the aviation community, and we're seeing a growth in activity. And this is the type of activity that gets reported by all airports around the country to the FAA. These are the numbers that are provided by our control tower and reported to the FAA. So this next slide is a breakdown of that same information. So we slice and dice the information. It gets reported in certain ways. There are types of aircraft. For example, this one shows where the activity has grown for the large commercial jets. So in our case, we saw a pretty large uptick in 2017. So 2017 there essentially doubled 2016. Those were both the previous records. And in 2018, it really took off. So last year we had 2,331 commercial aircraft operations as defined by the industry. So that's essentially, think of it like a Boeing 737 and larger. So those are large commercial jets that you used to see in the Southwest or United, for example.
So, Mark, it only qualifies for anything that's 737 or higher, or does that include some of the small airplanes that do the firefighting or a G5 or anything like that?
So a G5 would not count toward this, nor would some of the smaller aircraft that you see firefighting. But the DC-10, for example, would qualify. So that would be classified as a commercial operation.
And out of those 2,300 flights, who would you say was the most responsible for the highest increase?
So one of the major upticks in activity this year was in our cargo segment. So for example, in November and December of 2018, UPS was operating 9 flights each day, and FedEx was operating 2 flights each day. So that weighed in heavily on the operating statistics for the large commercial jets.
Okay, thank you.
One of the other segments where we've seen a lot of growth over the years and continued into 2018, and this gets to your point, Obi, on like a G5. So these are the corporate type aircraft. Think of them as business jets, corporate jets. The FAA defines them as air taxis. This has been a target market that we've been heavily marketing toward and have found some success. So on that subject of cargo, 2018 marked the first year where we reached a milestone. So currently we receive a certain grant amount, they're called entitlement dollars, from the FAA just for being an airport, separate from activity. Excuse me. But the FAA's grant program includes, once you reach a threshold of 100 million pounds of landed weight, you start to receive air cargo entitlement dollars in addition to the dollars that you get for being an airport. So we're excited to see that growth. 2017 was our previous record year. You can see that increased quite significantly in 2018. One of our other growth segments has been in the international market. That too has experienced double-digit increases each year. 2014 is when we've got our first big spike, and that continues. So last year was far and away our record year, with nearly 250 flights clearing customs at your airport. So we're very excited. It's one of the market segments that we continue to engage in and continue to grow.
I should note that of those 243 flights, not all of them are incoming flights. Some of them are outgoing as well, but they still
Yes,
need
that's correct.
custom clearance. So.
So this is a breakdown of the traffic that flows through Luxair SBD. And again, this is also consistent with our growth patterns for the airport as a whole. So in 2018, this is a breakdown month by month of when the aircraft are coming through the facility, and we saw an increase in the amount of corporate aircraft activity going through the FBO. And interestingly, and this is also consistent with the broader airport trends, is we've been experiencing an upgauge in the size of aircraft. So we've been seeing more commercial traffic, more corporate jet traffic, but on the general aviation side, we actually saw a 28% decrease going through the FBO. So the shift is toward larger aircraft, which is consistent with the airport as a whole. And overall, the activity at the airport continues to climb, and the aircraft are trending toward larger aircraft. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Nice increases.
But the charts are going in the right direction. That's the good news. So, if I could just make one more brief comment. There's another item in here with, unfortunately, a little bit of bad news, and that is we did sustain some damage to our international terminal with a water heater that went awry, and so there's some cleanup efforts underway. A claim's been activated to repair that. And Kat, I don't know if you have any recent updates beyond that, but we're still trying to get the damage assessment, and we'll be back as soon as we have a handle on the repairs. So. That's it? Okay, that's it.
I just want to, I'm sorry, Henry. On the slide, it shows the 2016-17 dollars. I believe it was $2 million up to $5 million, and then the growth for the poundage.
Oh, the tonnage, yeah.
The tonnage. Mm-hmm. Who decides that? Who Is there a set, when you get to a certain point, they give you that scale, you range from this point to
The
this?
metrics on the grants? Yeah, that's an FAA metric. So the more tonnage goes through a national ranking process. We're within the top 100 club, only our second, going on third year in the business. If you get within the top 25, then you start getting into substantial grant dollars. But it's a tiered structure depending on how much volume you do.
And then this obviously goes into the budget, and then what do you do with those extra dollars from that?
So they're restricted to capital improvements. That's the
Okay.
downside.
Okay.
This is through the Airport Improvement Program, which is the bulk of FAA's budget, and that is formula money, much like FHWA
Gotcha.
does in transportation, and that is designated and dedicated airport-specific when you're in this. That's why you see airports really focusing in on cargo activity and passenger activity, because they equate
Get more
directly to
money.
dollars
Gotcha.
beyond just fuel sales and services and such. So
Thank you.
it is a game changer for us to even be in the segment, but
That's
to see
nice.
the growth that we've got is pretty unprecedented in recent years. So it's a good thing, but we do have to put those back into capital. It has to stay on the airport. Those are some of the restrictions, but we have plenty of infrastructure needs.
Great, thank you.
So.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Oh, Mr. Nichol, go ahead.
One of the first slides, I think you had, what, total landings? Is that what we were looking
Total
at?
operations.
Total operations, which encompasses what, landings, or what's a quote-unquote operation?
So I'll let Mark go into the details of it, but it is a metric that the tower
Could we
tracks
pull up
for
that
us.
slide real
Yeah.
quick? Because I had a quick question.
So the operations, it's a landing or a takeoff.
Either one.
So if you land, that's one, and then when you take off, that's a second. And so this is how the information is collected by control towers around the country and reported to the FAA.
So we're looking at 58,000 total operations in 2018. If I recall one of the latter slides, how does that break down in terms of air taxi, commercial, GA? Does that have any relevance in terms of potential revenues? What is the relevance of quote-unquote operations in terms of our ability to sustain or acquire more funding?
So the really only direct connection to operations is in cargo at this point. If we had passenger flights, that would be the other arena for that. What this gets used for is overall activity. So the busier your airport, the more FAA is inclined to continue to invest in your airport. So the smaller percentage of FAA's budget is discretionary dollars. And these metrics play into their decision-making process when they have project-by-project allocations. So if your activity continues to increase like this, they're going to look at the opportunity to continue to expand your infrastructure because they want to promote more aviation growth. That's part of their mission.
And I would assume by looking at the numbers in terms of commercial activity, the bulk of these operations are primarily what, GA? Are they?
It's a mix because remember you have Forest Service here.
Okay.
You now have both FedEx and UPS.
Because I see it's
operating.
plateauing. I
And-
see that we're kind of
yeah.
reaching a plateau this year. So just trying to understand what may be contributing to that and what the effect may be in terms of ongoing funding and our ability to
As long as
sustain what we
you
have.
know you're continuing to show growth, we're in a good mode. You will, as Mark indicated, once we get to a capacity component. I mean, we only have so much space, we only have so many hangars, that type of thing. You will see this thing level off, and then your growth typically will be there, but it won't be of this dramatic.
For an airport our size, what is sort of a peak operations? Is there sort of a peak operations that we
No,
might anticipate or we might be?
Airports are only constrained by their physical environment, and that includes the surrounding community.
So we could grow significantly beyond this?
We could, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
And that's the good news. To put it in perspective, you know, comparatively, last year, you know, we were hitting 50,000 ops. Ontario was hitting just over 90. But you know, we've got a huge spike, and that's because we brought a lot of new facilities on, and in part, actually marketing the airport, you know, in earnest, has really contributed to that. So the prior years, you would have seen corporate really pushing that up, again, with some charter activity, large charters, Forest Service. Now we've got a broader mix, and we're diversifying our customer base, which makes us stronger.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes my reports. Have you got any questions?
All right, thank you. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Otherwise, do I hear a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Moving on to commission items. Number one, we're going to adopt the resolution for San Bernardino International Airport in recognition of service for the City of San Bernardino representative. We went through a number of these in the last month and a half, so it's part of a board that's always dynamic with different changes, and we say goodbye to Mr. Charette, although he's not very far, so it's more of like, thank you for passing through, and I'm sure we'll see him again. We have given a lot of recognition to folks in the past, but Mr. Charette has also been very, very active in our airport. And even though everyone else got a chance to say something about him, in this case, a lot of our members are not here to say something about him other than myself and Penny. So it's a little bit in a different light that we recognize him. But I think the best way to really sum up his involvement and his participation is to really go through the resolution that really summarizes it quite well. And then if Penny wants to add any more to that, she's more than welcome to. But I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution because I think it does a very good job of succinctly recognizing his participation in this board. So it reads, Fred Charette was first elected to serve on the as a Fourth Ward Council member for the City of San Bernardino in March 2009. Councilman Charette was re-elected to serve a second term in February 2014, and Councilman Charette was re-elected to serve a third term this last November. Whereas Mr. Charette, during his tenure on the City Council, he has represented the City of San Bernardino as an alternate member of the San Bernardino International Airport Authority Commission between 2011 and 2016, and then as a primary commission member from March 2016 until now. Whereas Mr. Charette has been actively involved in directing the issues of the military base reuse and revitalization activities impacting the former National Air Force Base and the region during his tenure on the San Bernardino International Airport Authority Commission, Mr. Charette has invested substantial time and effort to assist in the economic development achievements of the San Bernardino International Airport Authority for the benefit of the City of San Bernardino and the surrounding region, while ensuring the preservation of the rich heritage that has established and held and advanced the progress of Norton Air Force Base today and beyond. And whereas Mr. Fred Charette has been instrumental in garnering and focusing economic, fiscal, business, and community input and interest throughout his service, while enhancing a public-private partnership with Hillwood Development, a Pearl company that has brought a multitude of Fortune 100 and 500 companies and other nationally recognized firms such as Kohl's, Mattel, Pep Boys, Medline Industries, Stater Brothers, Markets, PepsiCo, Unical Aviation, Amazon, and most recently UPS and FedEx to the former Norton Air Force Base. Mr. Charette constantly strives to increase employment opportunities in the region as he exercises practice, devotion, leadership in all matters. Those efforts have brought substantial investments in buildings and improvements to the former military base. Mr. Charette was instrumental in developing the policies leading to an excess of $1.6 billion of private investment to the area. He has tirelessly represented the interests of the citizens, taxpayers, companies, and agencies in the region, and has had the vision to foresee the development and economic potential of the airport through strong support of capital improvements, including the completion of over $270 million in public infrastructure and roadway upgrades, establishing opportunities for expanded aviation and foreign trade facilities at the San Bernardino International Airport. Through his thoughtful and collaborative leadership, Mr. Charette has helped the Joint Powers Authority to achieve fiscal and operational success, attracting and retaining over 11,575 jobs and supporting over 14.2 million square feet of new development at the Norton Air Force Base, now generating over $2.3 billion in economic output to the community. Now therefore be resolved, this the 23rd day of January 2019, that the San Bernardino International Airport Authority hereby join with friends, family, and colleagues in commending Mr. Charette for his tireless efforts and dedication to his region and the goals of the authority, and in bringing into reality the successful conversion of the former Norton Air Force Base to civilian reuse. Be it further resolved that this resolution be noted in the official minutes of the San Bernardino International Airport Authority and presented to Mr. Charette in appreciation for his exemplary public service. Passed and approved by yours truly. Well, you want to come down here, Fred, and we'll give you the declaration. I should note that even though we praise you for all these efforts, it's the same, some of the same praise we're going to give to other members as they come and go. But the reality is that this has been a group effort from a lot of people that have started this process over 20 years ago. And we all get to benefit from a lot of success that those people have put together.
I had no idea I had so much impact on this airport.
You still will.
I'd like to know who wrote this, because I need a copywriter for my next political. Okay, good.
Do you guys want to come down in front and take a picture?
Yeah.
Fred, I just wanted to say that the numbers are quality. There's maybe just two of us here that have worked with you, but it's quality as opposed to quantity. But I want to say thank you for letting me call you and bend your ear all the time and ask you questions and being there for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going to go far. I'll be
Right
just
on.
down the road. Listen, I have a lot of voice, so I don't need a microphone. And I just want to just say a few words to staff, to everybody. I've thoroughly enjoyed my tenure here. I've enjoyed working with the staff. It's been not only an honor, but a privilege and a pleasure to work out here and have an impact on this wonderful asset to the city of San Bernardino and to the region at large. So I wish you all continued success. I know that there will be a lot more to come out here. And I thank the staff, the people that I've gotten to know out here and work with out here. It's been, as I say, a real honor and a pleasure, and I appreciate it. And friendships, I hope, last forever. So quality relationships and friendships, I appreciate the entire staff. Some I've worked with before, some I've worked with again, but I've really enjoyed it, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you very much for this recognition. Welcome. Thanks.
So, Fred, you can't leave just yet. On behalf of the staff, no, as a founding member of SBD Fest, we thought we couldn't let you go without something to remember to come back to SBD Fest. And Kat has a little thing to remember us by. So you can stop by.
Oh, wine.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
Good job.
So when we talk about branding the airport, well, we got to brand SBD Fest too. So you'll think of us often.
Catherine, thank you very much. And to all of you, thank you all very much.
So again,
And continued success.
no, thank you for all the support, and we appreciate working for you. So.
Thank you all. Thanks very much.
And your patience too. You had to wait.
Like I've stated in the past with other members, one of the nice things about our board here is that even though we all come from different municipalities, we've actually all worked pretty well together. I know some of you have your own issues that you deal with at your own cities, but by far this has been one of the most quietest boards within the the Inland Empire, so to speak, and we hope to look forward to continue to see it engage in that matter where we work well together, even though we may have differences of opinion. But so we miss Fred. He was an integral part of our effort here, and he'd really collaborated well with all of us and worked well. So you'll be well missed, but it's a public airport, which means you're welcome anytime. So
Thanks.
thank you. All righty. Moving on to regular items, I'll go ahead and do item number 8, which is to consider and adopt proposed budget adjustment for the fiscal 2018-19. Mr. Garay.
Thank you. Staff requests consideration and adoption of the proposed budget adjustments for this fiscal year 2018-19 as outlined in this staff report. The particulars and details of the proposed adjustments are outlined in the proposed adjustments table. There'll be a net impact of $50,000 as a result of the total of all the budget adjustments that are going to be indicated in a minute. If we go to page 53, we can look at the detail of the proposed budget adjustments table. We'll go through each line and explain the proposed budget adjustments as listed. The proposed budget adjustments is broken into 2 categories: revenues and expenditures. You'll see a description in the first column. That name under revenues and expenditures is the name of the account as listed under the chart of accounts in our accounting system. The next column is called the budget. That is the current budget as adopted by the commission, plus any amendments to that budget since its adoption. The second column is the proposed adjustments to each one of those line items. And the following in the last column is the adjusted budget as proposed. Starting with line A, you'll see the capital A next to the revenue account called Property Management Fund Building 695. We're requesting an adjustment of $40,000 to the original, resulting in an adjusted proposed budget of $253,660. I'll explain in a minute why we're requesting that increase to this revenue account. The next item is expenditures, and you'll see a whole lot of accounts being affected. Line item B, General Fund Airfield Maintenance Vehicle Replacement. We're requesting an adjustment of $50,000 to this account to bring the budget from $25,000 to $75,000. This is the reason for this budget adjustment is to fund a bucket truck to replace an old one, the 1983 version of that bucket truck. It's getting kind of old, so we felt needed to be replaced, and it helps with the airfield operations. Line item C, General Fund Airfield Maintenance Utility Truck, is an account which we propose to reduce in part to pay for this new truck, so we're moving that money over to the line above it. Line item D is a General Fund Terminal Parking Operations Equipment Maintenance. You'll see that we're reducing that $100,000 budget by $90,000, leaving us with a $10,000 proposed budget. And I will point out that this line item and E and F are all related. What we're doing in line D is reducing by 90. In line E, we're reducing that account, which is the General Fund IAF International Airport Facility Ops and Maintenance, by an additional $20,000. And we're moving those 2 numbers, a total of $110,000, to line item F, General Fund Airfield Maintenance Supplies, Repairs, and Maintenance. This is to fund additional airfield operations expenditures such as aviation striping and a blast fence line striping. Blast fencing and some edge lines that are needed. So those three result in a movement of $110,000 to line F, the airfield maintenance supplies repairs. Item G, line G, general fund, professional services, environmental, requesting an additional $50,000 to fund the consulting services provided by the company that does that. Line item H, the account called Property Management Fund, Building 695 Electric, is to increase that electric budget by $40,000 for a proposed total of $70,000. As I indicated a few seconds ago, that I pointed out in the property management revenue account, an increase of $40,000. These two accounts offset each other because a tenant occupying 695 is going to reimburse the airport for that $40,000, so it's kind of a net zero effect. Line item I through salaries and benefits, the FBO, we're requesting an increase of $34,000 to the original budget for a proposed ending budget of $483,500 to fund salaries and the associated benefits at the fixed-based operator operations. Likewise, line item J, FBO fund, FBO equipment purchase, requesting a reduction of that by $237,000 of the $550 indicated to bring it to a total of $313,000 proposed for the after the adjustment. Line item K, FBO fund license and permits, increasing that $24,000 budget by $6,000 for a proposed ending budget of $30,000 to pay for some additional licenses and permits that have increased in price. Line item L, this account, FBO fund HVAC, increasing this account by $75,000 to end up with $85,000 in that budget to fund some additional equipment. The equipment is old. I believe it's, what, Mark, 10 to 12 years old at this point, and a little bit beyond a level of repair. So there comes a point where the repairs and maintenance will exceed the cost of a new system,
Is this,
and as well as the efficiency.
this is for the full FBO?
No, it's just the portion of the HVAC by the theater and in that conference room, and we want to...
That went out on us, huh?
Well, just to get a good, reliable system, we want to replace the unit that serves that and do a complete clean. This also funds a service contract to support that new system.
Okay.
Line item M, the account FBO fund landscape maintenance, to increase that $15,000 budget by $35,000 for a total of $50,000 proposed. Line item N, this is a new account for engineering. Did not exist before. We're proposing to establish this account with a $75,000 budget. And
This is-
I might point out, as I go through these items, that there's a short summary or a synopsis listed below in the last part of the page. You've probably already seen that. Yes,
And I
Andy?
should note, even though I'm asking questions, anybody's welcome to also talk to staff if they have even further questions beyond what we usually do here at the, on the dais, because some of it is very involved that requires further explanation, so just so you know. But back to this particular engineering one, what is specifically that we are trying to do at the FBO as it relates to that?
This is actually bringing the original architect engineer that designed the building to look at expansion space on the second floor so that we can get a little more room out there. This also includes conceptual design for the restaurant.
That's what I thought it
And
was.
actually
so,
adding
okay.
a restaurant complement
Okay.
to our FBO.
Okay,
So,
all right.
And more to come on that, because we're just at the ground floor.
Mr. Nickel, did you have a question, or no? Okay. Sometimes I see body language, I can't quite tell whether, but feel free to speak up when you want to. Very good. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's all right. You make a good point, Ovi, in that we have additional detail in the finance division that could support a lot of these, not only the budget, but the expenditures with the contracts, agreements, invoices that we have, should you have any further questions. I believe I was on line item O, FBO. FBO vehicles. And this is to, this increase is needed to purchase some golf carts. It was budgeted last year and approved, but was not purchased until this year. Line item P, as in Paul, FBO fund office supplies, a $4,000 increase, doubling the amount that was originally budgeted to $8,000 to purchase supplies that were due to increased activity at the FBO, which I believe were reflected on the charts that you just saw. The last part of this is the net adjustment line. The result of all of these adjustments, the revenue part included, results in an increase in expenditures of $50,000 for the year for these accounts. That was mainly due to the general fund and the professional services environmental line item, and which was not budgeted adequately in the past. The rest of the accounts listed, including the revenue accounts, all offset each other. So generally, the professional service environmental is the net impact for the $50,000. That concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
I just have one.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just have one, and it jumps out me because it's such a big adjustment. So on item J was 550, and you adjusted it down to 237, and the explanation was that it's a decrease due to leasing of a new fuel truck. And I was wondering, but the original explanation is equipment purchase. And then we have a line item for vehicles down there. So why is that under equipment and not under the vehicles? And why is that such a big jump?
So I'll just jump in on that one,
Okay.
because it's one I asked for. So when we started the year with the increased cargo activity, we knew that we would be hopefully selling more fuel, and we needed more capacity to support larger aircraft. So we had in the budget an approved purchase of a new additional 10,000-gallon fuel truck. When we went to the market, we found if we leased it rather than purchase it, it would save us money. And so that's why you see that large reduction, because we don't need that cash there. The golf carts were separately allocated because it's a smaller equipment item. And that's just the nomenclature in that FBO fund for the year. So the golf carts were also an upgrade because we had to replace them, and because the purchase to order them and deliver them bridged the fiscal year, we had some additional expenses on the delivery of the vehicles that hit this fiscal year. That's why you need an $8,000 increase, because of the timing of the transaction. So I
Okay.
hope
I guess
that helps.
I kind of guess that, but I was just wondering why then it was under the equipment purchase versus the FBO vehicles under O as opposed to the line item
It's just
J.
where we booked the fuel
Okay.
truck. We could have called it a fuel truck, we called it equipment.
Okay.
Because we didn't know if we needed more apparatus with that, so we went with a more general description in the budget.
Copy.
Thank you. With that, do I hear a motion to approve this item? I hear Mr. Navarro. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Sanchez. We'll go ahead and just go to the formal vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you. And I'm going to take a little deviation here because I realized that I made everybody introduce themselves, but I'm not sure all of you got to know everybody sits up here with us. So I'm going to have you all kind of briefly introduce yourselves, staff, and just tell us a little bit about what you do, and so for our new members. So
Start with me.
go ahead, Bill.
Yes, my name is William Garay. I'm the Director of Finance for the Airport Authority, and my division handles all the accounting, the budgeting. We track all the agreements and contracts. We track the grants. We also oversee the internal control system that we've established for all of these all of these funds that you see, including the FBO. We monitor those controls. We also train staff in terms of what we do and what we expect of them, especially through the documentation that they fill out for our purposes. And we also handle the annual audit that our outside accounting firm handles, Rogers Anderson Melody. And they've been with us that accounting firm has been with us for a couple of years auditing. The last one, we had no findings and basically a clean report. And then we support those audit services, or that audit as well, with our own staff. We also handle the automated accounting system that we use here and track those items. We continuously strive to improve and make more efficient our control purposes, and as well as make it easier for operations, FBO, maintenance, and the administrative staff to get their work done and yet satisfy what we need from the accounting and finance department.
Thank you. Mr. Pritchett?
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Pritchett. My department is I'm the Director of Administrative Services. Working in my department, I have Tina Nguyen, who's here in the audience, and Liz Clayton, who is not with us today. Our department handles everything HR related, including all personnel matters, recruitment, retention, benefit plans, payroll, compensation, risk management. We run our insurance program, all of our work comp claims. We are currently working on instituting an internship program with the San Bernardino City Unified School District and the County of San Bernardino Workforce Development Program, and all other duties as assigned. So welcome, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Mr. Harris?
Good afternoon. My name's Jim Harris. I manage the capital improvement program for the airport and IVDA. What that entails is taking construction projects from inception through design, bidding, construction, closeout, and operation of most all the facilities on the airport.
Perfect. Good afternoon. My name's Nicholas Pierce. I'm the airport manager here. My departments include operations and maintenance. We oversee the day-to-day activities, including all operational facilities, fleet. We do take care of both IVDA and SBIAA structures, and then also the FA component with Part 139 compliance, make sure that we're within our regulatory compliance with the FA.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Dennis. I'm the IT manager for the airport. Manage the overall network for the entire airport, as well as contracts for specific systems, and support the different departments in all things technical. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Jack Davidson. I am the security manager for the airport. It's a fairly new position. I've been here 5 months. We transitioned from where security was under law enforcement in the past, or San Bernardino Police Department. So it's now under the guidance of SBIAA, which is the security industry in the state of California. So all of my people are licensed as security officers and also licensed for under firearms, and maintain their training records and support the airport manager. Thank you.
I guess. Mark? Sorry.
And we will be starting air show updates here fairly soon.
I noticed you left something off.
I did, and if you'd like VIP tickets, be very nice.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Gibbs, Director of Aviation for the airport. I oversee the airport and the various departments that include operations, FBO, IT, security, and provide guidance as to the direction of the airport, as well as governmental relations and business growth activity.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Ferris, clerk of the board. I am in charge of board and commission meeting support and administration. I am also in charge of IT support services in my department, which includes a little bit of basic GIS, audiovisual, which my audio is being very, very frustrating right now, and public records requests and such.
I am Scott Huber. I am general counsel for SBIAA. I essentially help you get into or out of hot water, as the case may be.
Since we are a government entity and we're bound to do that at some point. So, well, thank you. And it should be noted that many of the folks that just introduced themselves have dual roles because they work for the airport and the IVDA. So some of you will sit on both boards. So you'll see some of them, but not all of them. So.
Well, if I could indulge you, we got a couple more staff here. We might as well embarrass them while we're at it. So we have Ms. Brandy Goodman, who is our deputy clerk. We have Jennifer Rodriguez, who also supports our clerk of the board team. She's our analyst. We have Michelle Casey, who puts up with Mark and I. Thank you. We have Nicole Jews, who runs our purchasing division, so she buys everything. And thank you for that, because you do it very carefully. And then we have Amber Foley, who is our go-to accountant in the finance division. Amongst other things, she does all the fuel sales tax returns. So she is a fuel expert now. So, and I just run after everybody.
Cool. Well, thank you. Moving on to regular agenda, we'll go ahead and item number 9, which is the approval of a procurement of a bucket truck. Mr. Pearson.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you. So this item before you is to approve the procurement of a bucket truck to replace our existing bucket truck, which was manufactured in 1986. This would be for a maximum amount of not to exceed $75,000. We did conduct a cost survey. The results yielded an average of $52,766 for a used bucket truck. Staff requests that the commission approve this procurement. We do not anticipate using all of the available funds for this line item, but it is worth noting that the market for used equipment can be fast moving and yield different results when we do end up going to the market with it. So that is where you will see the difference between the average and the proposed budget.
I'll move the item.
Thank you.
I'll give it a second.
All righty. With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Do things go this smoothly at your own cities?
No.
Maybe.
Mine does. The council meetings.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, it should be noted that this was an item that was added when Mr. Burrows became our executive, where he's very detailed oriented in the way he presents his action plan. So every meeting he gives us an update on the general things of what he accomplishes and tells us a little bit about the timeline of what's next. So even though it's very general in nature, you know, as some of you may already know, he has a very open door policy, so you're more than welcome to go and chat with him and ask any further questions in specifics as it relates to those items directly. So, Mr. Burrows.
Thank you. So this is in support of your strategic plan and just a snapshot of some of the things that we've got on the horizon. So no surprise to you, we just did a bunch of mid-year budget adjustments, so thank you for that. We do literally monthly and quarterly look-backs, but try not to give you a long list very often. And then as you also saw, the reconciliation on our FAA reporting has been done. Mr. Gibbs and Mr. Person did get our grant requests into FAA. They are actually reviewing that now, and are at least encouraging that we might see some funds flow later this year. So that's good. We have an annual audit item there on the February meeting, and the fact is, for those that weren't here, we actually completed our audit actually a little bit early last year, and so it is currently filed What we're looking at here is more of a procedures audit. As we're doing more fuel sales and more transactions at the FBO, Mr. Garay and his team are working hand in hand with our FBO team on updating processes over there on the transaction side of the house. So that's what that refers to. International trade initiatives. Next month, I hope to bring one of our team members that we've added recently, Mr. Fred Latapariza, who serves as an international trade advisor for us, which has been busy over the last few months. I'm planning on having him come give you an update on some of the opportunities out there in some of the markets. And we're actually updating a lot of our demographic and marketing data to those international arenas, because our customer base, as I said earlier, is becoming more and more global, and we need to be aware of both domestic and international opportunities. Legislative updates, obviously March is a big month for that, because we do have some irons in the fire both in Sacramento and DC presently. So I'll give you an update on how that's going. All in all, in June, that's when we present the strategic plan review, and Jennifer and her team are already working on that annual update, which includes our job count for 2018. So anxious to see how that pans out. That concludes my report.
Mike, you alluded to it, but I know in the past, and it's sometimes we do it and sometimes we don't, but you may already have it in your plan, but maybe at the next meeting we just get an update on our marketing initiatives.
Yeah, I actually have it scheduled for April because we're working on a new cargo rollout, but if we have it in
just
in
a
pieces.
general update on kind of where we're at, what we're doing, and the conferences we're attending, and why we go, and where we're spending our advertising dollars, kind of what we've done in the past. You guys have pretty detailed synopsis of kind of what we're doing on the marketing end. So
Yeah,
it'd be great to have that at the next meeting.
Next month would be good because we've got schedules and dispatchers
We'll have a report
next
back from
week,
that,
and
too.
we'll be able to report on that. Sure.
Cool. And just in general, not to make this orientation, but the FBO which stands for Fixed Base Operator. It's kind of the meat of our airport in the sense of all of our fuel sales go through that. So even though UPS and FedEx, and we've got the sheriffs, and we've got the fire department, the fire services, all the fuel sales go through it. So a lot of what you see on here talks about the FBO only because from the fuel aspect of it, but also we just alluded to a conference, the Schedule and Dispatchers, which is a conference where all the dispatchers for all the private entities around the world get together once a year, and we display, we have a booth there with our Epic, which is our fuel provider, and that's where we do most of the marketing as it relates to the FBO. And we'll get a little bit more details to exactly who we're marketing and how we go about it. So just going to get a little bit of synopsis. So any other comments? Since it is a public meeting, I do need to make sure that I ask to see if there's any public comments on any items that have been on the agenda. Since most of the public is staff and they all kind of quiet, we'll just, so there are no public comments. With that, we'll go ahead and adjourn, and we will meet again on February the 27th. Thank you.